to someone who's looking to get into photography as a means to support themselves?
Like I said before, you gotta want it. You gotta want it really bad. You should be, if that's your goal, don't look at amateur photography. Don't look at what we call, the Flickr look of oversaturated pictures and over sharpened photographs. And, that's a look that is not often used or very rarely used in magazines and advertising because it's very rudimentary and amateurish. Look at great fashion magazines. Look at great magazines of photography, and derive your inspiration from there. Don't look at don't just base it on Flickr and your peers. Shoot for the high and see what the people you aspire to be are doing.
Who do you look up to, and where do you get your inspiration?
I get my inspiration. I look at all the current magazines, and I especially like European fashion magazines because I think that they push the boundaries more. We're looking. Next week. I'm doing 2 covers for a travel fashion magazine, and we were looking at the French magazine Numero, and looking for inspiration there because I think that they do it really, really well. They're really interesting. But I try to look at contemporary magazines, contemporary fashion magazines, or just sophisticated magazines that use sophisticated work, and see what's out there. But I'm also really heavily inspired by people like Arnold Newman, Helmut Newton, Annie Leibovitz, and I'm always following, the latest stuff Annie's done still. And also looking for who's on the cutting edge, who's new, who's hot, who is doing interesting work, but without following just someone who's a trend or a photographer of the moment. And I think you can really see that by, if a photographer uses one trick all the time, and it's sort of a trick or a technique, like their grain and desaturated images, and then Jim Fiskus started doing that, and then everyone jumped on that bandwagon. And Jim Fiskus was the smart one and the original one who said, screw this, I'm going to do something different now. And all these people that are still doing desaturated images with noise look like a trendy bunch of amateurs. So I try to stay away from getting inspired by the trendy bunch of amateurs and look for someone who you can see has a real eye. The other person's work I love is Dan Winters. Fiskus's work is great. There's some great portrait photographers and fashion photographers out there that I get inspiration from. Platon's work I like. I like Nick Knight, the British fashion photographer. The Spanish fashion photographer, Javier Volenvat. And I try to look for people who are inspiring. I have a friend in the UK, Julia Fullerton Batten, whose work I love. And there are times I draw inspiration from that myself.
Excellent. Now, someone looking to get into, I know you're in kind of what's considered a very elite field, which is celebrity portrait photography. I mean, everyone would love to do celebrity portrait photography. What would be like a first step for someone who's trying to get their foot in the door into doing something like that?
What would be the first steps to get into shooting celebrities? I don't know. I think it was much easier when I started. And for me, it was because I was doing photojournalism for People magazine, and I was able to transition to shoot celebrities for People magazine that started my celebrity portrait career. But I think it's difficult these days. I think, like you say, everyone wants to be a celebrity photographer, and that makes it tough. So I think that the way to do it is try to get into a smaller magazine like a Venice magazine that might not pay anything or very little, but it'll give you entree to shooting some celebrities so that you can start building a portfolio.